It's fun to see like what kids zero in on. Like for her, it was all about the room service at the hotel.
Right.
What is going on, everybody? Eddy here for the Life of Dad show. Instead of the remix, we're doing something a little bit new. And it's not going to be always this, but we're going to try and have some new formats in this 2019 since it is the year of the dad. And who coined that phrase? None other than my co-host, John Finkel. What's up, dude?
Dude, it is the year of the dad. We're 3 weeks in, pretty much, and the year of the dad deserves its own show. I think as we expand our podcast offerings and our shows, we have lunch break going on at Mondays and Wednesdays at 1 Eastern. We've got the podcast where we have awesome celebrity interviews, like we had Nate Robinson earlier this week. And so, I think we need a little forum to talk about timely, topical things: the Oscars, sports, your trips, my trips, cool stuff with our kids. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and if there are certain things that we talk about in the lunch break that maybe need a little bit more time for discussion, I think this is great for it too. And if you're watching the lunch break, or if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do Mondays and Wednesdays on our Facebook page at Life of Dad. John and I just have a great audience of people just chiming in, talking about fatherhood, whatever the topic may be. It could be pop culture, it could be, bullying, it could be certain things that you're looking to instill into your kids. A lot of different things that we talk about, and it's fun, and we have an engaging audience, and this is what we love. So if you have any topics you want heard on here, either email me art at Life of Dad, or just follow us on Twitter, Eddy3 or John_Finkel. We love to get the conversation going, and we love for you guys to sometimes steer us in the right direction. First and foremost, man, proud dad moment. I know we've talked about this on the lunch break, and I appreciate you indulging me one more time sharing the story. So I kind of want to talk about, we had the movie The Kid Who Would Be King sponsoring some of our lunch break shows. And we talked about, one of the moments that I had with my daughter it's going to stay with me for a while. So here, Life of Dad, you and I do the interviews. Obviously, the book, our Life of Dad book that's coming out May 7th of this year. You can pre-order at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, wherever books are sold. Shameless plug, but it's a really cool book. John and I had fun doing the interviews with celebrities, actors, athletes, entrepreneurs, everything. And it's just it's a really cool book. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But for me, Life of Dad, one of the things that I do here is, do the interviews for the Life of Dad show. And so when we were flown out by 20th Century Fox, they took me and Lily out to New York City. It was a really cool trip. Like, it's fun to see like what kids zero in on. Like for her, it was all about the room service at the hotel.
Right.
She was so excited about that.
Well, it's so out of it's so out of their normal wheelhouse. Like even if you stay at things and like they don't understand that someone else set it up for you, and like that normally you have to do the trip, but like a PR person set it up, and how cool all that other stuff is. It's the things that are out of their element that they'll remember like for the rest of their life. That like somebody called you, Mr. This, or like somebody, came up and was extra nice to you and gave her a cookie or something. Like the kids remember that stuff.
Yeah, and so they were just like, as she was like, hey, we took some pictures of the food. We sent it to my wife and my youngest daughter. And it's funny. There's so many things I kind of want to get into, but let me go back to the story. So Lily and I were going to do the screening on Sunday, and we went to go interview the cast. Now, I thought it was just going to be an interview with a bunch of other people, like at a round table thing. And they said, no, it's like, no, you're going to be doing one-on-one videos with Patrick Stewart, Serkis, who's actually the son of Andy Serkis, who's been in all the different movies like Planet of the Apes, Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and Lord of the Rings, and Black Panther. He played Claw. And Rhianna Dorris. Rhianna and Lewis were both like the kids who were part of the round table. And so when I told Lily that, like, her eyes got like wide-eyed, she's like, wait, what? She goes, they're going to videotape us? I was like, yeah. And she goes, oh no. And so she's like, can I get a pen and paper? And I was like, sure. And she started writing down questions, and I, gave her, the exact names of the actors and all that. And she was really diligent about like coming up with questions. And then she started telling me like, hey, Dad, this is what you're going to ask. I'm like, no, I this is what I do for a living. I looked at them, but I was like, I have some questions in mind. And she's like, okay. And I was like, do you want to go first? She goes, no, Dad, you go first. So we get in there, and we meet them, and they're doing the rounds, so they're kind of like eating between different interviews and all that. And we have like 5 minutes scheduled with them, but I could tell Lily was a little bit nervous. She's like, Dad, you ask the question first. I was like, all right. So we were asking questions back and forth, and one of the questions I asked to Lewis was, I said, I saw your dad after I saw the premiere, and it was really cool. It was I said to him, to your father, I go, it was great to see the smile on his face after I said, your son did a really good job. And he goes, oh, yeah, thank you very much. And I said, what kind of advice did he give you? Because he's been in, a couple movies or shows here and there, but this was the first time he was a lead actor. And so Lewis put a smile on his face when, he heard about his dad, being a proud dad. We're done with the interview. We do a picture with Patrick, Lewis, and Rhianna, and then we leave. And Andy is listening to the interviews in another room, and he sees me, and he gives Lily a high five or a dap and says, good job, little one. And then I look at him, and I said, thank you very much. I said, this is a really cool moment where, your son is following your lead and my daughter's following my lead. And he's like, yeah, no doubt. And he's like, great job, guys. And I was like, thank you. And again, I would have loved to have that videotape, but it didn't. It was just a moment that, especially in our day and age where everything is Instagram, and of course I want to get pictures and all those other things. And we just shared the interview on YouTube, and we tweeted that out. It was just a moment where I'm like, this guy that I've seen, and I'm a big fan of his work. He and I had this moment we were sharing and expressing our happiness as being a dad and our for our respective kids, and it was just something that I'm always going to take with me. And I love the fact that he was so down to earth, and we just shared that moment.
Yeah. So he has his arm back from Black Panther. He's able to give Dak now with that. I was thinking, make sure that was okay.
Yeah, everything is back normal for some reason. Okay. None of that happened.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know because it's so convincing. I didn't know if he gave her a dap with the blaster or anything like that. So I'm glad he's back to normal. And I think the cool thing about that, and it happens, I guess as we get older and our kids get older to even notice it, is I'm sure a guy like that is getting his kid into, his kid's getting into the business, and there's all kinds of trials and tribulations that go along with that, especially rejection. I'm sure the kid doesn't get every role he's up for and things like that. But, you can recognize another kid kind of summoning a little bit more willpower than they may normally have to rise to an occasion like your daughter did. And it's no small thing to be A, on camera, and B, I watched the video on YouTube, and to sit and have the composure to ask a question when you've never done it before. It's not like, she's a seasoned high school reporter who's kind of her first break. This is a whole new thing. And you're with other kids who, you can tell. I've done enough of these things, and so have you. These people who are on the spotlight like this kids, anybody can tell that they're treated a little differently, whether, you're getting a press pass to a sporting event or you're at something like this. They can sense that there's something, even though, we don't look at it like they're, put on a pedestal, but they can sense that people take these other people a little bit seriously. And even though they're just kids. And so to be able to step up and have that question, I'm sure Mr. Serkis saw that and realized that, it's all relative to what each kid is experiencing. And he was happy to experience it with you.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate, you weighing in on that too. It was a really cool experience. And I'm trying to get a picture. I kept the itinerary sheet and also the sheet where Lily was writing down her questions. I kind of want to frame it. I want to put it in my office or her room. I don't know, but I have the stuff. I was going through my all the different receipts and all that stuff from the trip, and I looked at it. I'm like, I got to keep this. And I have one of the lanyards from the press pass, so I kind of want to make something either for her or for me, maybe for her birthday since it's coming up. So I showed them the video that I edited together because obviously this is a legit thing, and Fox gave me the both camera view videos. Here you go. They gave me on SanDiscs, those little things, those little mini chips, and I put it in there, and I showed the girls, and hey, what can we do? Lily was like, I feel so nervous. I don't think I did a good job. I'm like, this was your first time, and you did face-to-face with these actors, so don't worry about it. I said, if you want to, my wife's like, why don't you guys, work with Dad and start your own little podcast, you doesn't have to publish it, but just, work on conversation and interviewing. And they're like, yeah, so that might be another, it's funny how that experience could bleed into another experience with my daughter, so that may be cool. One of the things that I think you're always good at, you're sparking good conversations, not just on lunch break, but on your Twitter account too. I always love the fact that you're bold in your predictions in regards to movies, or you share what you're into. So today, this got published on Friday, but we're recording this on Tuesday of this week, and the Oscar nominations came out for 2019. Talk about we'll go down maybe we'll break down your picks versus the Oscars picks. All right.
Yeah, I'm usually very far off. I have a lot of friends who people listening don't know, I spent pretty much the first 10 years after college living in LA, working in the industry, mostly on the TV side, with Comedy Central and The Man Show and a bunch of other things. And I'd written, had a few screenplays get passed around and, sold minor things, but like that. But I was never into the award-winning type fare. And I've had some friends who have moved on to now a lot of critical and commercial success in terms of movies and TV and things like that. But I've always been, I won't say made fun of, but there's always that sort of Hollywood snobbery of like, Mission Impossible can't be one of the top 10 movies of the year, or like if it has The Rock in it, it's automatically not, something great. And to a certain point, I know Black Panther itself stands for a whole lot of things to a whole lot of people, but on a very simple level, to me, it stands for like an actually fun, good, entertaining movie that can finally get nominated. Because to me, the fact that they're nominating Black Panther, and I know it is for a lot of political reasons and a lot of reasons that are, minority representation in movies, and it means a lot more. And that's awesome. I think it means all those things too. But also, it reminds me of like the 20 movies over the last 20 years that absolutely should have also been nominated that were just ignored because they were either a superhero movie or an action movie, or, they actually did too well at the box office to be nominated, which is always a hilarious thing. Like they were too popular, so we had to make sure it was more obscure. And I think, or they lost, like, where years like where Avatar lost, and it's just like we can't even remember the other nominees.
Because Best Picture shouldn't go to someone a movie that everyone goes to see maybe again and again because they loved it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the first, the first new version of the Star Wars movies that came back, and I think when you look at like some of these, last year, Thor Ragnarok was amazing. Everybody who went and saw it loved that movie and thought it was incredible. And you go all the way back, a few years back. You don't have to do Marvel movies, but there are some, any of the Fast and Furious movies. Some of those are really good movies, and I don't know where it's spun off. Because it used to be way back when the popular movies were the best pictures because there weren't that many movies. Like, they made a great movie, and there was 10 of them every year, and they had to be nominated. It's only now recently in the last maybe 15, 20 years or more where really big time movies were like immediately dismissed as not having a chance at winning an Oscar.
Yeah, and that is so true. And there are certain movies, like I'm looking at this list right now for Best Picture, right? Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Rome of the Stars Born, and Vice. And I think though too, like Christian Bale for the Golden Globes, and he's nominated for actor in a leading role. Like, thanks Satan for winning this or something like that. And you always wonder too, because like now that I know the Golden Globes has been around probably for a while, but like the Oscars is like the number one. It's like going to the Super Bowl, like your Patriots do. It seems like all the time, which is good for Patriots fans. We'll get into sports in a second, but like, I feel like it's always like I always got nervous as a kid because I remember my parents telling me like, oh, I wonder if they're going to thank the Academy or thank whatever the Hollywood Foreign Press, because if they don't, then they if they get shunned after winning an award, it might be tougher for them. So I don't know why. Not that I care as much as now, but I remember as a kid, I'm like, they didn't thank that person. They didn't think, My mom's like, well, it's all right. I'm just like, she said, she read it somewhere that someone didn't win after they didn't won their first one or whatever. But like you wonder with all these actors like Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, William Dafoe, and all these things, and like Vigo and Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody. Like I'm wondering, do they go in knowing like it's almost like the Chargers and the Patriots, right? Where you go in and it's like the Chargers are like, yeah, we kind of have a shot, but Christian Bale's going to win. He's going to win this one, right? He added the weight. There's no way I can win. Like, do you think actors know and actresses know like, yeah, there's no way in hell I'm going to win?
I do, because I think there's a sense, I don't have it now. Dallas is not like nearly the movie town that it was. The thing that I think is kind of lost on people, because I know the Oscars have lost their luster the last several years between the host controversies or the lack of a host and the not popular movies being involved, and somehow you have these years where like, and I think it's a big problem. I have a couple of friends that I have like a movie text chain that always goes on, and I'm like, here we go, like we'll have another Oscars where somehow like Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Denzel, Leo, Jim Carrey, like Will Ferrell, like all these big names have no involvement whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
And they're not even on stage. Like maybe they'll present something, but like they used to have skits and it used to be funny and fun, and it just becomes now where it's like, you know, what year is going to happen. Like, what's the movie or two movies or three movies that become, if you somehow don't like them, there's a mob after you. And so you kind of get the feeling that, like, that those are the movies that are going to end up winning. And so, yeah, I think you're right. I think a movie like Christian Bale, where, like, I didn't actually see Vice yet, but you know, the sense is that that movie says, you know, a lot of things that people who are in Hollywood want to say. And you're right. He put on weight. He's got a new accent. Like, he's probably funny in it. So he's going to get it. And, like, you can just tell in certain years, not so much in the Best Picture. I think occasionally there's a change, but you can get a feel early on, like, when the actors just start sweeping all the awards, that it's this person's year. And you know, he's so good. He's been so good for so long that, like, if this is a role he wins for, you know, that's fine. But, like, I would have nominated him and had him win for American Psycho. So I'm a Bale fan from way back when.
Okay, yeah. Here's another thing too. Like, can we get over the fact that he's got, like, you know, he does have a British accent, or he's from Britain, and everyone's like, wait, he's British? It's like, how do you not know that Christian Bale is not British? Like, I remember when he won for Vice, everyone's like, wait a minute. I'm like, this is when he was doing press for Batman Begins and all this other stuff. Everyone's like, oh, he's British. Like, do we forget? Like, I think that's one thing people have, like, just bad memory loss for that. I'm like, I think everybody knows that Christian Bale is British. I thought they did. Is that just me or no?
Yeah, I think it's almost like it. I always joke, like, it happens to my wife a lot. She doesn't see a ton of movies, and so, like, we'll see somebody and then she'll see an interview and be like, "Oh my god, like, I didn't know they were Australian," or "I didn't know this." And I'm always like, "Yeah, it's acting." Like, they don't ever talk. They don't do movies in Australia because we wouldn't see 10 movies of this person playing an Australian character.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, people do forget, I think, when they see them only playing these roles. Like, I actually think it's very easy, you know, for non sort of cinephiles to forget, or, like, you'll watch a movie and you'll only see a character playing, you know, Thor, right? Like, he's Australian, but he only really plays the movies that we see. He never has an Australian accent.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not so much that I forget he's Australian, but if I see him I saw him post something on Instagram the other day, and I was like, oh, right. Like, he's Australian, but he never plays that.
Yeah. And yeah, so there's just certain things where I'm like, okay, we should know this by now. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There's Incredibles 2, Isle of the Dogs, Mara, and then Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I would love. I liked Incredibles 2. It was really cool. Didn't see Ralph Breaks the Internet. You saw it, but I'd love to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse work.
Yeah, that. I mean, I know they have a very hard time putting an animated movie as best movie, and I get it, because it opens up a little bit of a can of worms. I think when I think it was maybe like 2009 or 10, but whenever Toy Story 3 came out, that was, like, maybe one of the best movies, period, ever, like, story-wise and all that kind of stuff. And that didn't get nominated, I think, for best movie. They stick those movies all in animation. So, not, like, super disappointed that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse didn't get, you know, nominated for best movie, but it was one of the best movies of this year by far. It was so innovative and so cool and clever and smart, and the message was good. And I would have liked to see that movie get nominated. I don't think, like, Ralph Breaks the Internet should have been nominated, but I think Incredibles 2 was good. But I always look at it like, you know, I always joke with all my polls. I do the football poll. I always call them the people's poll, because usually I take a bunch of crap from all the people who are, like, the mainstream poll people for these kind of things, because I'll do it. I'll be like, yeah, if you go into any airport or bar and ask the question, you're going to get pretty close to the answers that I'm giving. It's only because you're looking at it through this lens of, you don't want the other critics to get mad at you. You make that decision. And I try to look at movies, especially in that way. And that's why, you know, when I put out my own little list, I don't have a problem putting, you know, Black Panther and, you know, Mission Impossible and all, you know, Rampage and all these movies that were just straight up enjoyable as my favorite movies. I don't say best. I try not to ever say best, because I don't really know what, you know, best is what I think messes it up. But if you're talking about your favorite movies, that makes it very easy for me.
All right, so what are your favorite movies of 2018 that maybe should be in a category for the Oscars?
So I put together my list, and this is, again, my favorite movies of 2018. So I picked 14 of them, and I'll go in reverse order. I won't, like, have too much suspense, so I'm not spending 30 minutes reading them. So my 14th favorite movie was Molly's Game, which was, you know, Aaron Sorkin, awesome story. Probably could have been shorter, but that movie, I'm just a sucker for that kind of dialogue and all that good stuff. I had my number 13 movie kind of crept in a little bit because I've seen it on HBO a bunch, and I kind of like it more and more every time I see it, which is Ready Player One. I mean, again, it's a
Yes.
Spielberg movie. Spielberg directed it, classic book. I don't really remember the book. I remember reading it a long time ago, but I actually thought that movie was awesome. Like, I thought it was a really good movie. 12 and 11 are definitely popcorn movies, but Peppermint and Rampage, like I love Jen Garner, and Peppermint was so good and so like over the top awesome. And I get why I wouldn't get nominated for the Oscars, but really good. Rampage, of all the rock movies that came out in the last few years, that was probably one of my favorites. Like
Really?
somewhat original story. Did you see that one?
No, I mean, I have the video game in my office, but I don't have. I wanted to see because that was based off the game, and they did a pretty good job with that as well. You know?
Yeah, they made a storyline that made sense to make a big movie out of it, and it had enough like, okay, I see you there, and enough cool action and giant monsters fighting and cool, the rock lines and stuff like that. So I liked Rampage. Deadpool 2 was amazing. I was so good. They're so clever, those movies.
Just with Deadpool though, like you know how like especially when we're talking about like Oscars, is like people like pick those like unique movies and being like, oh, you just don't get it because there's some artistry in this, and you maybe for the common folk who aren't cinephiles, they don't get it.
Yeah,
Deadpool is such a like just even the conception of how like Ryan Reynolds made and his crew, his colleagues got Deadpool to like actually be a legit movie and a rated R movie should be winning an Oscar in it by itself. But
the story behind Deadpool is an Oscar-winning story.
We should make a movie like that's you and I, patent pending. Everybody, this John and I are gonna make a movie about Ryan Reynolds and how he made Deadpool. No, but like Deadpool 2 and just in that series, like you take that, like that is such a rare gem. I mean, I love superhero movies, but that is just a great superhero movie by itself. It can stand alone, and it's amazing how that doesn't get treated for like good artistic work. And people are like, oh, there's profanity, it's crude and all this other stuff, but like that's Deadpool, and the fact that they made it so true to life was fantastic. So I just sorry.
Yeah, and no, it's fine. And I think one of the things that like is overlooked, and this is where my brother and I have talked about this for so long with these nominations, like for somehow the Oscars don't take into account like level of difficulty of a movie. Like, you look at a movie, and I know there's some great performances like a Green Book, right? But you look at a movie like Green Book, and I'm sure it's fine. I haven't seen it. It's probably, I'm sure it's very clever and makes a great statement and whatever. But, and I'm not just, I'm more dismissing it because if you're a director and you're staring at a blank page for Green Book and you have a script and you have two guys and a ton of dialogue, and then you're Coogler and you're looking at Black Panther. Like, what is the level? It's like one of them is like single A ball, and one of them is like Hall of Fame level baseball to pull off Black Panther. Like to me, they're not even the same level of effort. Like Ryan Coogler needs to amass an army to make this movie, and then the actually leap over that to do the special effects and the concept and the drawing and the uniform and everything that they do in that movie. I don't even know how you put a movie like Green Book or Roma or any of these movies in the same ballpark in comparing how difficult it would be to make them. So that's one of the things that I always bugs me about the Oscar nominations is like, how hard was it to make that movie? I know everybody has an artistic vision, but like when you're looking at comparing, some of these movies where it's like, or even, like Bohemian Rhapsody, which is, stadiums and anthems and getting the raw power of that right. And then you look at some of the low wattage of some of these movies, which I'm sure have great performances, and that's where those performances belong. I always get annoyed that they don't take into account like one guy is like, all right, 2-camera shot. We're going to make something look like the Deep South, and we're going to film it, and we're going to figure out the performances. And one of them is like, I have to create an entire world and universe from scratch.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll keep going. So 10 was Deadpool 2. 9 was a movie not many people saw, but I really liked it. It was 12 Strong with Chris Hemsworth. I thought it was about the
I saw that. It's really good. Yes. Yep.
Really good. Like the horseback soldiers who came in. It was a true story on how it was. I thought it was really, really good. I love it. I'm a sucker for those movies. I like that movie a lot. 8, I have obviously an Oscar darling, A Star Is Born, and I was absolutely shocked at how much I enjoyed that movie. My wife, that was her pick to see a movie. I could have, if she hadn't kind of insisted on us seeing it, I would have easily probably never seen it till who knows when. But really good movie. I liked it a lot. I just saw on the way Flight Home Black Klansman, which I thought was really, really good as well. It turns out the story isn't based on, it's based on it's about as based on a story without being, as super accurate as you can be. But I love that movie. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is number 6 for me. Ant-Man and the Wasp, again, like when you talk about a movie, a level of difficulty, storytelling, tying things together, tying a storyline together, to me, that movie blows away some of these movies that are nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Then I had 4 Black Panther, 3 Mission Impossible Fallout, 2 Avengers Infinity War, and number 1 for me, there's no way these movies when they come out will not be number 1 for me, but Creed 2 was my favorite movie.
Yeah, I knew that was happening, but no, Creed 2 is so your wheelhouse, and I love it.
Yeah, I get it, but it's awesome.
No, that was a great list, and again, I think you are speaking for the dads, right? And not just the dads, but just like, and I even hate to say like the common folk, but like you're just speaking for people who love these movies. And then like I honestly feel like craft beer or certain wines or certain foods, and especially movies, it's like, oh, this is critically acclaimed, I must love it, And there's certain times, I think it was Mike Golick who was the Shape of Water. He's like, what the hell is this movie about? I was like, good for you, man.
Yeah, it's just there's people are so afraid to like put this stuff out, and it's like, I really think there has to be, if you're talking about best movie, you're talking about the skill set to pull off telling that story.
Yeah.
And I realize that you're going to look at some movies, and I want to see Roma. I haven't seen it yet, but I'd like to see it. And it's on Netflix, I guess, so I will. But as you're watching some of these movies, sometimes I'm looking at it and I'm like, like I get it. It's okay to have a really well done movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's fun to have a movie that you look at and go, well done, well directed, well executed movie. But you don't have to have it be Best Picture just because.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. I don't really understand. I just don't understand how they. I do understand, because the people who are nominating it are so out of touch in terms of what audiences actually want, and they want to make a statement that they're like somehow snobbery. You know what I mean? So all I'll say is I'm all in on Black Panther sweeping everything.
Me too.
For all the other reasons that are out there, I'm for, and also for the idea that kind of movie, and I'm talking about a giant action movie that was just an awesome, good time to watch that I've probably seen 4 times on Netflix since, with amazing scenes, amazing special effects, can and should be winning awards, and then we can go back and give Captain America: First Avenger their award, and we can kind of start fixing all these things.
The world according to John in regards to movie awards. I love it. Awesome time, man. Always have fun chatting with you. People, like I said, if you have any topics, let us know, and make sure you join us every Monday and Wednesday in the Facebook page over at Life of Dad for our lunch break, and then also too,
buy the book.
Yeah, buy our book. Go check it out. Like I said, if you even just go to lifeofdad.com and check out our announcement section, it's right on the main page. I always try and keep it there. Buy the book. I think you guys will enjoy it. It's a great Father's Day book. I think you guys will really enjoy it. For John and I, we hope you enjoyed this edition of the Life of Dad show. We'll see you next week on lunch break. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you guys all later. Peace.
See ya.
Thanks so much for listening to the Life of Dad show. You know where to find us, lifeofdad.com, and on Twitter and Facebook.